When it's PCS time, you know the drill. Pack, research the new base, get the kids in school, because family supports family. At American Public University, we support military families with flexible, affordable online education that moves with you. As a military spouse, your tuition rate is the same as your partner's, just $250 per credit hour. American Public University, education that moves with you. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.
It's Christmas Day. I'm Jamie East and we're looking back at the Smart 7's biggest stories from 2024, starting with the events of January and February. It was a busy start to the year with the war in Gaza and Ukraine, ongoing wrangling over Rwanda, the post office scandal in the spotlight, and award season in Hollywood. Grab a cup of something hot, put up your feet, and get up to speed on the 7 biggest stories of the week. This is the Standout 7 from the Smart 7.
It's news,
but not the news. January saw ITV release a drama series called Mr. Bates versus the Post Office, based on the real events of the Horizon IT scandal, and it kicked off a massive storm that would run throughout 2024 and see the man at the centre of it, Alan Bates, knighted at Windsor Castle. The scandal saw more than 700 sub-postmasters wrongly convicted of false accounting, theft and fraud due to faulty software between 1999 and 2015. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak addressed the controversy in the Commons after the show aired in early January.
Obviously, it's something that happened a very long time ago in the 90s, but actually seeing it and hearing about it again, it just shows what an appalling miscarriage of justice it is for everyone affected, and it's important that those people now get the justice that they deserve.
The spotlight also fell on Lib Dem leader Sir Ed Davey, who served as Postal Affairs Minister between 2010 and 2012. Davey said that he did ask questions, but that post office managers didn't tell him the truth.
I wish I'd known then what we all know now. The post office was lying on an industrial scale to me and other ministers. And my heart goes out to all those people. We need to make sure their convictions are overturned, and we need to make sure they are fairly compensated and quickly.
With public outcry growing throughout the week, more than 1 million people signed a petition calling on Paula Venables, the post office boss between 2012 and 2019, to hand back her CBE, which she did during that week. The government finally moved to clear those wrongfully convicted on Wednesday the 10th of January, with Rishi announcing the breakthrough in the Commons.
Today I can announce that we will introduce new primary legislation to make sure that those convicted as a result of the Horizon scandal are swiftly exonerated and compensated.
The new law would see additional compensation paid along with the overturning of the cases, and the Scottish Government announced a similar initiative. With an impeccable sense of timing, the official inquiry into the scandal resumed hearings in early January. The Horizon inquiry had been running since 2021 and was chaired by Sir Wyn Williams, with hearings due to continue until at least the summer of 2024. In the spotlight for the first of the new hearings was Stephen Bradshaw, a post office investigator who denied accusations that he and colleagues behaved like mafia gangsters while interviewing wrongly accused sub-postmasters. He also said he'd no information from his superiors there were any issues with the Horizon system.
I'm not technically minded with that. I would expect that to come from the people above. If it was an issue, I would expect Fujitsu to inform the post office and the full post office to let us know what the issues are.
By the middle of January, the war in Gaza, sparked by the Hamas attacks in Israel in October 2023, had reached the 100-day mark. Thousands gathered in protest to mark the milestone. By mid-January, over 2 million people had been displaced, more than 24,000 killed, and 1% of the Gaza Strip's population wiped out since fighting began. January also saw 2 days of public hearings at The Hague after South Africa opened a genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. But Britain's Foreign Secretary David Cameron said the whole thing's nonsense.
I think the South African action is wrong. I think it's unhelpful. I think it shouldn't be happening. Now, of course, I'm not a lawyer, but they are talking here about genocide. They're taking this case on the basis of genocide. And, to prove that, you've got to prove that there was intent.
Meanwhile, the Houthi rebels in Yemen's continued attacks on shipping in the Red Sea drew a strong response, with Prime Minister Rishi Sunak in the Commons to offer clarification on the UK's military action in coordination with the US, which saw airstrikes on the rebels. He said the UK had destroyed 13 targets at 2 sites, including an airfield and a cruise missile launcher, and he defended the action, which was taken without formal parliamentary approval.
Proportionate targeted action against military targets to send a strong message that that behaviour is unacceptable. It was a last resort. It came after the end of exhaustive diplomatic activity, including a UN Security Council resolution, and now I think it's incumbent on the Houthis to recognise the international condemnation for what they're doing.
In Gaza, medicine for Israeli hostages and Palestinian civilians arrived after a new deal was brokered by Qatar, but fighting continued, with Israel claiming to have killed another senior terrorist in a refugee camp near the city of Nablus. US Senator Bernie Sanders said the State Department had an obligation to ensure Israel complies with international law while using American-supplied munitions.
Much of the bombardment and the other actions that we are seeing now is happening right now with US arms and equipment. In other words, whether we like it or not, the United States is complicit in the nightmare that millions of Palestinians are now experiencing.
By mid-February, there was no sign of any ceasefire breakthrough, and Israel signalled its intent to begin a new phase of the war. Civilians in the Gaza Strip city of Rafah were urged to evacuate ahead of a planned Israeli ground invasion of the city, which was providing refuge to more than 1 million Palestinians. Lord Cameron was calling for an immediate pause in the fighting as he cautioned that civilians in Rafah are completely trapped.
It really, we think, is impossible to see how you can fight a war amongst these people. There's nowhere for them to go. They can't go south into Egypt. They can't go north back to their homes because many have been destroyed. So we are very concerned about the situation, and we want Israel to stop and think very seriously before it takes any further action.
South Africa made a fresh appeal to the International Court of Justice, asking it to intervene in Israel's proposed extension of its military operations into Rafah, while the UN chimed in too, announcing it wouldn't participate in any forced evacuation of civilians amid continuing calls for a ceasefire. Jordan's King Abdullah was at the White House as work continues on a deal which would see hostages released and an extended pause in the fighting, and he said there was no time to waste.
We cannot afford an Israeli attack on Rafah. It is certain to produce another humanitarian catastrophe. We cannot stand by and let this continue. We need a lasting ceasefire now. This war must end.
Russia's war on Ukraine continued to grind on throughout January as it passed the 700-day mark with no end in sight. With the US Congress deadlocked, the US supply of weapons was drying up, and Ukrainian President Zelensky was appealing to potential Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump to visit Kyiv in a bid to swing Republicans onto Ukraine's side. And as the US aid dried up, there was good news from NATO as they signed a new $1.2 billion deal to replenish members' munition stocks. Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg said it's intended to send a clear message.
We do all of this to ensure that we have the readiness, preparedness and the forces in place to remove any room for miscalculation or misunderstanding in Moscow about our readiness to protect every inch of NATO territory.
There was more good news in January as Turkey announced it'll withdraw its objection to Sweden's NATO membership. Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov certainly seemed to be getting the message when he sat down for a rare interview with US network CBS.
We have been warning publicly that NATO expansion, against all the promises given to Yeltsin and to Gorbachev not to expand the alliance, NATO expansion was going too far.
The middle of February saw a shock new development as Russia announced the death of jailed Russian opposition figure Alex Navalny at his remote prison in the Arctic Circle. Russian officials say Navalny became ill and died after a walk, but refused to hand over his body. Vladimir Putin made several public appearances over the weekend and appeared to be in high spirits following the death of his most vocal critic. David Cameron said the death of Navalny was an appalling human rights outrage.
Of course, we've already summoned the ambassador and we've made clear our views about this dreadful event and the way this person was treated. And of course, being here in Munich means that I'm going to be meeting with G7 colleagues, other foreign ministers, and we'll have the discussions with them. I'm clear we'll be taking action, and I would urge others to do the same.
The wife of Navalny, Yulia, vowed to carry on his work, saying she believes that Putin killed her husband, possibly with the nerve agent Novichok, and is waiting for the traces of the poison to disappear. In a 9-minute video, she pledged to help build a free Russia.
My husband could not be broken, and that's exactly why Putin killed him. Shameful, cowardly, not daring to look into his eyes, or simply say his name. As vile and cowardly, they are now hiding his body.
At the start of PMQs that week, Rishi Sunak paid tribute to the Russian opposition leader and had an announcement of the first step in what appeared to be a coordinated action against those responsible.
Mr. Speaker, the whole House will join me in sending our deepest condolences to the family of Alexei Navalny. He died for a cause to which he dedicated his whole life, freedom, and to return home knowing that Putin had already tried to have him killed was one of the most courageous acts of our time. Together with our allies, we are considering all options to hold Russia and Putin to account, and this morning we sanctioned those running the prison where Alexei Navalny's body still lies.
The beginning of February saw a massive week for Northern Ireland after a power-sharing government was restored for the first time in 2 years. The DUP had walked out of Stormont in February 2022 and had been boycotting it ever since in protest against post-Brexit trading agreements. But when they signed a new deal with Westminster to reduce checks on goods being transported from the rest of the UK into Northern Ireland, they agreed to re-enter power-sharing. Sinn Féin's Michelle O'Neill made history by becoming Northern Ireland's first nationalist First Minister and said her premiership signals a change in the country.
My election to the post of First Minister demonstrates the change that's happening on this island. And that's a good thing. It's a healthy thing because this change, I think, can benefit us all. So when Mary Lou McDonald talks about that it is within touching distance, I believe that we are in the decade of opportunity.
The successful restoration of power sharing was celebrated by Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Irish PM Leo Varadkar visiting Stormont to meet with Michelle O'Neill and Deputy First Minister Emma Little-Pengelly. Both the UK and Irish governments were keen to place an emphasis on returning Northern Ireland to business as usual. Sunak warned that wasn't the time to be considering broader questions about Northern Ireland's future.
Our new deal gives them more funding and more powers than they've ever had so that they can deliver for families and businesses across Northern Ireland. And that's what everyone's priority is now. It's not constitutional change, it's delivering on the day-to-day things that matter to people.
The Irish government didn't sound any keener to start conversations about a possible reunification poll or indeed the notion of a united Ireland. Questioned by reporters, Irish Taoiseach Leo Varadkar stuck to the script.
I think today really is about marking the fact that the Good Friday Agreement, which we voted for in big numbers, north and south, is now functioning again. The Assembly is operating, the Executive and hopefully the North-South bodies and Ministerial Council soon. So I think today really should be about that rather than constitutional questions.
Still to come on the Christmas 7, King Charles faces a tough diagnosis and award season hits Hollywood. Right after this.
When you're part of a military family, you understand sacrifice and support. So at American Public University, we honor your dedication by extending our military tuition savings to your extended family. Parents, spouses, legal partners, siblings, and dependents all qualify for APU's preferred military rate of just $250 per credit hour for undergraduate and master's level programs. American Public University. Value for the whole family. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.
Welcome back.
Monday the 5th of February saw Buckingham Palace announce that King Charles had been diagnosed with cancer. It was detected during treatment for an enlarged prostate, but it was understood that it's not prostate cancer. The King, at 75 years old, according to the palace, was wholly positive about his treatment, which began immediately. He stepped back from public duties but continued with his constitutional duties as head of state. Sky News' Alistair Bruce said the decision to go public might have a positive effect.
Bringing it to light is perhaps some of the work that the King hadn't necessarily planned to do with his reign, and yet I think the impact of this announcement and the fact that it's being shared so clearly with so many people is part of what he may be able to do to support the nation and all the people who are suffering from this disease.
After the shock announcement, there was a flurry of activity. The King and Queen were seen heading to Buckingham Palace before departing by helicopter for Sandringham. Prince Harry also dashed across the Atlantic and was spotted at Clarence House as he went to check in on his old dad. There was a huge international outpouring of good wishes, and news of his diagnosis generated heightened awareness around cancer and the need to get checked regularly. As the King stepped back from day-to-day duties, author Robert Hardman said the lessons of the pandemic will come in handy in terms of managing the process.
Certainly, there's no sort of sense of sort of constitutional worries or legislation or anything like that. I mean, the machinery is there if it's needed.
The family of murdered teenager Brianna Ghey were in the spotlight again in early February as reaction continued in the aftermath of the sentencing of two 16-year-olds to life in prison for a murder. 16-year-old Brianna was fatally stabbed by her two teenage friends Scarlett Jenkinson and Eddie Ratcliffe at a park in Cheshire last year. It's thought the pair had both made concerning Google searches prior to the killing, and after the verdict, Brianna's mum Esther called on the government to mandate tighter safety features on smartphones used by under 16s.
We'd like a law introduced so that there are mobile phones that are suitable for under 16s, which will not have all of the social media apps. I feel like it's such a simple solution, and I don't understand why we haven't actually done something like this already.
But Education Secretary Gillian Keegan said the government has already taken steps to improve online safety.
It is quite radical to ban smartphones from under 16s. That just shows just how much we know and understand that this is really worrying to parents. But I think the steps that we've taken, they have yet to be seen by parents.
There was a new twist in the story as Rishi Sunak found himself in hot water over a remark that appeared to be a joke during Prime Minister's question time. Brianna's mum Esther was in the House of Commons that day. She'd come to attend a debate on mindfulness in schools organised by a local MP. Rishi was busy attacking Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer over policy U-turns when he threw in a line about transgender people.
It's a bit rich, Mr. Speaker, to hear about promises from someone who's broken every single promise he was elected on. Second referendums, defining a woman. The list goes on, but the theme is the same, Mr. Speaker. It's empty words and absolutely no plan.
With Brianna being transgender herself, her father called on the PM to apologise, describing his remarks as absolutely dehumanising. But Number 10 refused to do so, saying it was legitimate to question the Labour leader's position. Starmer sounded genuinely shocked by the jibe and later met with mum Esther.
Of all the weeks to say that, when Brianna's mother is in this chamber, shame, parading as a man of integrity when he's got absolutely no responsibility.
January and February saw the start of Hollywood's awards season, with the first up being the Golden Globes back on the 7th. Joe Coy was hosting for the first time, and the 81st awards night was a return to form for the ceremony, which had faced accusations in 2021 of corruption and having no black members on the judging panel. There were wins for The Bear, Succession and Beef in the TV awards, and The Holdover, Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon also took home some gongs. With Barbie and Oppenheimer dominating nominations, Christopher Nolan's movie collected the most awards of the night, including Best Drama, Best Score for Ludwig Göransson, Best Supporting Actor for Robert Downey Jr. and Best Director for Nolan. Cillian Murphy accepted the award for Best Actor.
I knew the first time that I walked on a Chris Nolan set that it was different. I could tell by the level of rigour, the level of focus, the level of dedication, the complete lack of any seating options for actors, that I was in the hands of a visionary director, a master. And I want to thank Chris and Emma for having the faith in me for 20 years and 6 feckin' pictures. So thanks so much. To all my reps, all my team, thank you so much, you're the best. To my family, I'm the luckiest man. Love you. Thanks so much, guys.
The Critics' Choice Awards were up next, and Downey Jr. was enjoying his time in the spotlight again with another Best Supporting Actor award. He was delighted, but didn't miss the chance to recap on some previous critical reactions to his movie work.
Critics' Choice Association, you know, they've given me such beautiful feedback, really just so many great moments, and some of it's so poetic. I just want to share some of their thoughts with you. The first one's kind of like haiku, sloppy, messy, and lazy. The next one's more metaphoric, like Pee Wee Herman emerging from a coma.
And in the same packed week, the Emmys took place, with the winning streak continuing for the cast of The Bear and Succession. Kieran Culkin and Sarah Snook did the double once again, taking home male and female Best Actor in a Drama Series, with creator Jesse Armstrong picking up a Writing Award and Best Drama Series. Quinta Brunson made history as the first black actress for over 40 years to win Best Lead Actress in a Comedy for her role in Abbott Elementary. She also created the show and was justifiably proud.
I love making Abbott Elementary so much, and I am so happy to be able to live my dream and act out comedy. I say it every time, but I just love comedy so much that I am so happy to be able to get this.
Mid-Feb saw the 77th BAFTAs take place in London. Oppenheimer was the big winner yet again, taking home 7 awards in total, including another one for Robert Downey Jr., and picking up for the first time BAFTAs for Cillian Murphy as lead actor and Christopher Nolan as director. Once again, Barbie left empty-handed, but the night saw surprise wins for Zone of Interest, which won 3 awards, and Poor Things, with Emma Stone awarded Best Actress for her performance in the movie.
I just want to say this, in case I don't ever get a chance to again. I really want to just thank my mom, because she's the best person I know in the whole world, and she inspires me every single day, and she's always made me believe this kind of crazy idea that I could do something like this, and I'm beyond grateful. Without her, none of this exists, including my life. So thank you for that too, Mom. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to The Smart 7. We'll be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Hit that follow button and have a great day. Give us 7 minutes, we'll give you the world.
When it's PCS time, you know the drill. Pack, research the new base, get the kids in school, because family supports family. At American Public University, we support military families with flexible, affordable online education that moves with you. As a military spouse, your tuition rate is the same as your partner's, just $250 per credit hour. American Public University, education that moves with you. Learn more at apu.apus.edu/military.